Welcome to This Explainer. Okay, today we're diving deep into the matrix of critical thinking to tackle a massive problem that honestly is probably destroying your peace of mind right now. We're talking about the super dangerous habit of jumping to logical conclusions. You know the drill, treating highly likely outcomes as absolute certainties. It's exhausting. But by mastering two very distinct flavors of logic, you can actually eliminate a huge amount of daily anxiety and, as a bonus, stop manipulative debaters dead in their tracks. So let's just get right into it.
Picture this. You text your boss a simple, completely routine question, and they reply with a short, one-word answer. Fine. Period. Instantly, your heart just drops into your stomach, right? You start sweating. You're thinking, oh man, they hate me. I am absolutely, definitely getting fired tomorrow. It is literally sheer panic over 4 little letters.
Now, I want you to really think about what just happened in your brain right there. Are you just jumping to conclusions? Well, yeah, but it's actually worse than that. This anxiety isn't just a feeling, it is a massive logical error. You took a tiny, completely isolated clue, literally a single word in a text message, and you treated it as undeniable mathematical proof of a total disaster. You didn't just worry, you turned a tiny guess into a terrifying guarantee.
Which brings us to Section 1, the problem, specifically the illusion of certainty.
So to understand why our brains constantly do this to us, we need to look at the two main flavors of logic. The first flavor is deductive reasoning. Deductive arguments are pretty much the absolute gold standard of logic. They're strict proofs where the conclusion is completely guaranteed. In a deductive argument, you start with a general rule and you move to a specific conclusion. The classic example is, all humans are mortal, Socrates is a human, therefore Socrates is mortal. If those premises are true, that all humans are mortal and Socrates is a human, it is mathematically impossible for the conclusion to be false. You aren't guessing here, you're basically calculating.
And that is absolutely the most important thing to remember about deductive reasoning. It gives you a 100% guarantee. Think of it like a heavy, impenetrable steel vault, locking completely shut. Once that heavy door closes, there is zero wiggle room, no alternative interpretation. It's absolute certainty.
But then we have the second flavor, and that's inductive reasoning. Inductive logic works in exact reverse. It takes specific, isolated observations and uses them to guess a broader, general conclusion. Think of a detective walking into a crime scene. They see torn clothes, they see a broken window, maybe they even find a motive, and so they conclude that Mr. X is the murderer. Now, that's an inductive argument. Why? Because the evidence heavily points toward Mr. X, making it highly probable. The pieces fit together perfectly, but it's still a guess. The detective hasn't mathematically proven it.
So here is the ultimate difference between the two. In deductive reasoning, you have a 100% guaranteed steel vault. In inductive reasoning, you just have a highly probable guess. Why? Because in inductive logic, a totally new piece of evidence could emerge tomorrow that completely flips the case upside down. It gives us likelihood for sure, but it never, ever gives us a total guarantee. Let me ask you a direct, maybe even slightly embarrassing question. Have you ever looked at someone who hasn't been drunk in 20 years and just assumed that they definitely won't get drunk tonight? That is a very strong inductive argument based on past observation. But at the end of the day, it is still just a guess. You cannot 100% guarantee what they'll do tonight. And the crazy thing is, our brains constantly forget that highly likely does not equal absolutely certain.
Moving on to Section 2, the agitation, building on toothpicks.
So why does blurring these two distinct lines drive us absolutely crazy? And why is it secretly the root cause of so many unnecessary existential meltdowns? Well, it's because we start building our reality on toothpicks. The brutal reality here is that almost all of everyday life happens in the inductive plane. We rarely have 100% guaranteed facts at our disposal, but we constantly fall victim to the hasty generalization fallacy. We take a mere likelihood of failure based on an incredibly insufficient sample size of evidence, like, say, one short text message from our boss, and we mistakenly treat it as absolute proof of our total worthlessness.
And guess what? Manipulative debaters exploit this exact same fallacy against you all the time. They'll point out 2 or 3 isolated, specific incidents and practically scream at you, look, this proves the whole system is corrupt. What are they actually doing there? They're aggressively selling you a very weak inductive guess and presenting it as an undeniable deductive fact. They want you to surrender to a certainty that just isn't there.
Arguments are exactly like bridges. Now, you wouldn't drive your car across a massive bridge made entirely of toothpicks, no matter how much you believed in it, right? I mean, of course not. But that's exactly what happens when you let someone else, or even your own anxious mind, treat a tiny inductive guess as a deductive certainty. You are driving your logic, your emotions, and your entire peace of mind across a bridge of toothpicks. And eventually, yeah, that bridge is going to collapse.
Here's a wild logical reality check for you. If your coworker gave you a weird look today by the coffee machine, does that actually justify the conclusion that everyone in the office is actively plotting against you? I mean, obviously not. We really have to stop turning our unproven guesses into absolute, guaranteed facts.
Which leads us nicely into Section 3, the solution, the degrees of strength framework.
To stop this illusion of certainty, you need to deploy what's called the degrees of strength framework. You just can't let a manipulator or your own anxious brain blur the lines between a probability and a guarantee anymore. So, step 1 is label the logic. The exact moment someone makes a massive claim, stop the debate and categorize it. Ask yourself, is this a deductive guarantee, or is this just an inductive guess based on a few scattered clues? You have to instantly force the argument out of the realm of absolute truth and label it for exactly what it is, probability. Next up is step 2, weigh the evidence. Once you realize it's just an inductive argument, you absolutely must carefully measure its logical strength. An argument only has strength when the premises actually support the conclusion. You can calmly and firmly tell your opponent, look, you've given me a few interesting anecdotes, but those specific clues do not absolutely prove your general rule. Your argument is logically weak. And finally, step 3, demand the missing data. This is where you really take total control. Do not allow your opponent to treat their inductive probability as a settled, closed debate. Ask them directly, since we're dealing in probabilities here and not certainties, what new evidence would it take for you to admit your guess might be wrong? This completely forces them to acknowledge that their claim is vulnerable.
And that brings us to Section 4, your psychological cheat code.
Now, I really want to give you something incredibly powerful to take away from this explainer. This is the ultimate psychological mic drop. When you're dealing with a toxic debater who's just desperately trying to pass their flimsy guesses off as absolute facts, you need a trump card. I want you to look them dead in the eye, smile just a little bit, and deliver this exact quote. I agree that your theory is a possibility, but possibility is not proof. Let me know when you have deductive evidence and we can finish this conversation. Let me tell you, deploying this exact phrase will completely and utterly vaporize their unearned confidence. It shows you understand the matrix of logic way better than they do.
At the end of the day, a genuine debate requires the intellectual discipline to know the difference between a likely guess and a mathematical guarantee. So, I'm going to leave you with this challenge. Where is your brain trying to turn a highly probable guess into a guaranteed fact? Right now, find it, label it, and definitely measure the strength of the bridge before you cross it. Stay sharp out there and never treat a guess like a guarantee.